Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Secondhand Sellers. My name is Klayton.
I'm Sarah.
And today we are going to be talking about customer relations and how to handle lost or broken packages.
Yes, which unfortunately does happen sometimes.
More often than it should. But when you are dealing with the United States Postal Service, it happens.
A lot more than it should.
How much experience do you have with this?
I have a couple of good stories. So, as far as like breakages and stuff, we've been pretty lucky. We are very paranoid. And I think we've talked about this on here. We sell a lot of breakables, glass, ceramics, things like that. I guess we're masochists. But anyway, we sell a lot of this stuff. So we are usually really overdo the packaging on those things. We try to be really careful about them, especially things that are higher value. For instance, there was a set of like faces. It's Fitz and Floyd, great faces. It was like a whole line of like housewares. And this particular set that we had was a bathroom set. Well, it sold for $250. And so I was really careful about that. I used a big box, I floated them, used a ton of packaging. But unfortunately, we did have at least one incident where a handle broke off of a mug that we had shipped. And unfortunately, it was a Thanksgiving themed mug, and they're like, the handle broke, I need a replacement stat. And we were like, I can't, it's one of a kind.
Yeah.
Luckily, in that case, the way we handled it was we sort of gave the customer a few options. So they sent me the photo. I explained that we couldn't just replace it because we didn't have any more. And the handle had broken pretty cleanly. I could tell from the photo that it was just like the handle itself had come off. It wasn't like in multiple pieces. And so I said that they could return it for a full refund, or I could give them $5 off and they could keep it and they could try to glue it. And I did say that luckily it looks like it, broke pretty cleanly. I think you probably could glue it. And then, anyway, they ended up taking the discount. They took the $5 off. We refunded it. It was fine.
Did the customer give you like a good review? They were happy with that?
I don't remember if they left us a review either way.
Okay.
But we definitely didn't get a negative review for it.
Yeah.
And it seemed like they were okay with the resolution. So basically, I just went the option route. I can't remember if we gave them a third option or not, but that was basically what we did.
So as far as breakages, I haven't had anything break in shipping except for recently I had this entire lot of what are they called? Tech deck skating ramps and stuff, and I figured it's plastic. Took it all, I put it into a box. I had bubble wrap lining the box, but I didn't worry too much about the pieces themselves. And in transit they all jostled about and they actually ended up breaking each other. Not all of them, but a few of them. I did the same thing. I said, hey, I'm really sorry. Based off of the pieces that you have, they paid like $50 plus shipping for the whole thing. So I was like, based off of what pieces that broke, I can either give you a $20 refund, you can keep the rest, or you can return the thing, get a full refund. I left the ball in their court. Customer was like, $20 is great, more than I was expecting, and they were very happy. I sent them the refund. They left me a stellar review, and I was pretty pleased about it. So, and I still made a good profit with that, even after giving out $20 back. But it's one of those things that when you have a customer, it didn't go too well with the shipping, which generally, yes, it can be the Postal Service issue, but it's our fault for not actually making sure our items are packaged properly. You got to do what you can do to make the customer happy. So.
Yep. I think a lot of times it seems like, that's only 2 stories, but it seems like a decent amount of customers are okay with a little bit of a discount. I'm sure that's not always the case. Thank heaven I've not really had enough incidences of this to encounter someone who wanted a full return or anything like that, and we really try to avoid that by, like I said, over packaging. But we have had some other issues with lost packages, and We have a couple of doozies.
Mhm.
Keel Overstock does. Do you have any doozies? Do you want to go first? Do you want me to give one?
So I deal with lost packages maybe like once a month.
Mm-hmm.
This month has been a little bit different because I dealt with one package that got shipped out in December
Mm-hmm.
or January, one of the two.
Whoa.
But it went to Brazil, of all places. And then I had another one that recently USPS scanned the package, it has tracking, till it reached the facility and it vanished. No idea what. This just happened today, so I haven't even contacted Postal Service to be like, I need a refund of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
But the one that went to Brazil, so what's weird about that, with international sales, you actually ship your items to eBay. You don't ship them directly to the customer. So eBay got the item, they verified the item, they repackaged it, send it along the way. It went from America down to Mexico, crossed into Mexico, went through. As soon as it left Mexico, no more scanning.
It is bizarre that they sent that by land.
They should not have sent it by land.
It should have been by air or by boat.
Yeah. But either way, it had been like 60 days. Like way too long since the customer was supposed to receive the item. And the customer finally reached out to me and was like, hey, I haven't received my item. And they opened up a claim about never receiving their item. But before I was able to respond, eBay actually got involved and they were like, we're giving the customer a full refund. It is not coming out of your funds though. So eBay themselves actually flipped the bill on that and I was able to keep my profit.
Because they saw the tracking, I assume.
Yeah, probably.
Or maybe the country it was going to has a common problem.
Yeah, it could be.
Especially if they're sending it that route. That is a weird.
Super weird. But it is. I'm pleased that it didn't come out of my funds. I didn't get dinged with it.
Yeah, which is the big thing. You're here to make money.
Right,
so.
And the customer, by that point, it was too late for the customer to even leave me feedback, so I didn't get negative feedback in addition to that. So.
I think even if you had, eBay would have let you remove that. Because that you have no control of it. It got out of the country. And then, what are you going to do? I don't have anything quite like that. I do have at least, let's see, 1, 2, I have 3 pretty serious package issues. So, since we started in April, most of the issues came midsummer and later. And I don't know if you had this experience. And I may have said something on here, I can't remember. I was having the worst time with the post office at the end of last year. During the holiday rush, they were losing and misplacing and missending packages, like way more than they should have for the volume that we were sending out. I would understand if we were sending out 1,000 packages a month or so. It was ridiculously high for how many.
But it's in combination with everybody else's stuff that's going on.
But it was still like really crazy how much it was like. It would go missing for 2 or 3 days. But one of the biggest ones we have, and I might have covered this before, is we sold a video game. One of the video games I was selling for my husband, and I was stupid and I didn't add additional insurance on it, which now I do if it's over the threshold value. This item is about $150, I think, or so, and they only cover $100, right? So I didn't pay much in shipping, but we got the value of this item here. It wasn't even going somewhere crazy. It was going to, I think, to Georgia? Oh, is that the one that was going to Georgia? Anyway, it was going somewhere south of here. And I watched them they tracked it. I watched it go all the way there. And I think, I think it was Georgia. Because I think it got to the post office, or at least it got to the city where it was supposed to be delivered. And I messaged the customer and I'm like, I think it's finally there or whatever. I turn around and it was shipped back all the way to us and it was in our P.O. box. Like the next day, it was like dinged at the post office that should have delivered it or taken, sent it to the smaller post office that should have delivered it. And then the next thing I know, it's back here in Michigan. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? Like,
Mhm.
this is absolutely ridiculous. And the only thing that I had done that was maybe a little weird was the label, I had put it over the side of the box, but you can clearly see my name, their, their address or whatever. And it was like they were reading my address instead.
Yeah.
I'm like, you work for the post office. Like, what in the world? This is not that hard. Like, you could see the scanning, the tracking number, everything. So it went all the way to, like I said, I think it was Georgia, all the way down there. Came all the way back.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what the frick? And at this time, it had been way too long. And I'm, going back and forth. So once I realized it was scanned back here in Michigan, I messaged the customer again. I'm like, I don't know what the deal is, but they sent it back here. I'm going to see if I can intercept it. So I found a number and was able to call the post office I got delivered to. And luckily, the post office that our P.O. box is at is a pretty small one, so it's not like a big major metropolitan one. So I was able to talk to somebody. I was like, here's the deal. Can you just get it for me?
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, I got a worker who was willing to work with me. She pulled it out of the stream and held it for me, and I went and picked it up myself. Took it home. I look at it. It's fine. Like, the box is not damaged. That you can completely read the label. Like, there was no reason.
Yeah, somebody was just being lazy.
Oh, it was so bad. And multiple people, though, because it was, like, taking forever the whole way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I picked it up myself, and then I shipped it UPS.
Yep.
And then what I did, though, is I went to the post office on the website, and I filed for my shipping back.
Yeah.
I think plus a little bit, because it was just, I'm like, this is completely unacceptable. Mm-hmm. And it's of course it's like not a $10 item that's doing this, circus. So anyway, I just was like, I'm pulling it out of this nonsense. I wasn't about to let it do the same thing again.
There might be something for that, where if you're selling an item over a certain threshold, you may want to just spend the extra $3 to $5 to ship it UPS.
It depends, or at least make sure you have insurance, because that was the other part. I was like, if they actually lose this,
yeah,
it'll be so bad. But happy ending. UPS got there really quick. I just kept in contact with the customer the whole time. We were going back and forth about this whole thing over the whole span of the saga. Because like I said, I think it had been missent a couple of times before that, or it was like in transit. It was ridiculous. It was more than just them sending it directly there and back.
Yeah.
And so in the end, they left us a great review and said that the USPS screwed it up, but we fixed it. So that customer was happy. They finally got their game. All was well.
I've had issues with USPS as well, where I'll take items. It's got the label on it. I take it and put it in the prepaid drop box.
Mm-hmm.
Because I often cannot make it to the post office while they're open.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't scan the items. I've had this happen.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Is it just the specific post office?
No, because for a while, yes, I was taking them to the one location close to my work, and I called them, and I'm like, listen, I've dropped these off. They have not been scanned. You guys have been open. What happened? And they're like, oh, well, we only scan packages after a certain time. I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, their Dropbox, they only scan packages after 4 p.m. Okay. But these were packages from a previous couple days, and it had been like more than 24 hours by that time.
Yeah, so there should have been a day or two already.
Yeah, and I think it was 2 or 3 packages. They never got scanned at the initial post office. One of them vanished. I've never received any other tracking information. Don't know what happened to it. It's just gone. Customer was mad. That's my one negative review I have, where customer claimed I scammed them out of the $7 item that they never got, even though they received a full refund. But
did you file a claim at the post office for that?
Yeah, it's fun. And I got a phone call after I filed a complaint to them, being like, listen, this is ridiculous. I've dropped off items, they haven't been scanned, and somebody called me. They're like, that doesn't happen. I watch every item get scanned. And then I provided him the tracking number and said, okay, what about this item? Oh, I guess they missed this one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yeah, I have another tracking number if you want. Oh, no need for that.
Yeah, that sounds just like bad branch management.
It was great. It was great. I stopped going there.
So
So now
the post office I use most often, they're usually pretty good. I have noticed that sometimes the tracking takes a while to update, one versus the other, you know, because unfortunately, the post office I use most often, their after hours drop box is
small.
Yeah, it's like strangely small. I don't know why it's so tiny.
There's one post office, and different one close to my work. They don't actually have a drop box.
Not at all.
You have to go in, stand in line, and when you get to the counter, if you have pre-purchased, you can put them here on the counter. So that's just it. At least you have a drop box, but it is very small.
Yeah, we have to put them on the counter if they're too big, but they usually just will let you go. You don't have to wait through the whole line to do it.
Yeah.
Because they're used to it. But it is kind of like, for the volume of this post office, it is kind of inappropriately small. But that's beside the point. So yeah, it does depend on who's working at the post office. Like I said, I lucked out at the one where it was missent, where our P.O. box is, and the one close to me is pretty good, but that really sucks.
Yeah, it is what it is. And I've had a couple of other items where, like, same thing, I drop them off. They don't get scanned initially. And then somewhere down the chain, somebody actually scans it, and it's like...
That's so weird.
I don't know why that happens. It's just very weird.
Is that the only item that you've ever completely lost?
No, I've lost a few others.
Have you?
Yeah.
I've only ever lost one so far. And what's really infuriating about this is it got to the city it was supposed to be delivered in. And then it stopped tracking. And then I inquired about it, and they said, oh, this was last fall when everything was a nightmare. And they said that, it didn't seem unusual. They just haven't sent it over from processing yet to the actual post office that would deliver it. And then it never did anything. And I didn't call them back. I just filed for missing with the post office and got our money back. But it was just, and on top of that, the seller or the buyer got kicked off of eBay.
Oh.
So it was like my buyer technically disappeared. The post office lost the package. I have not received it back. Nothing has ever happened of it. I think it just says still in transit. Yeah. Or maybe it finally cleared out or something and said lost. But anyway, yeah, that's the only time I've ever lost a package.
Either way, so I have found that when something goes awry, reaching out to the customer going, hey, I have dropped this off. I don't know why they haven't scanned it yet. It goes a little further than just going, well, hopefully USPS will scan it eventually. Because I have had customers go, oh, okay, as long as I know it's been dropped off. Yeah. And
see, I'm lucky that way, because usually it's not the origin post office that I have the most problem with. They usually do scan stuff. So I, at least within a day or so of dropping it off, unless it's a weekend or something, I have that scan, initial scan that proves that I did my end. So it really does suck when the origin post office is the problem. But yeah, I don't know, something in that that process though. I had a few other things that were just in transit. I always am a little worried when I see in transit moving to the next facility, because a couple of these issues that were missent and stuff, it would do this for 2 or 3 days before anything would happen. So yeah, the one where I had to actually pick it up was the biggest, and then the one I lost. But there was one other weird situation that I had. I was mailing something, again, I think it was last fall, to New Jersey. Now, again, we said we're from Michigan. New Jersey is not that far, pretty much straight east. The post office sent it to Puerto Rico. And I don't know why. It didn't occur to me. I don't see the Puerto Rico's mailing code is PR. I had to look it up because I don't ever see the Puerto Rican mailing code. So technically it stayed within the U.S., but they sent it all the way to Puerto Rico, and I can only imagine what the post office person in Puerto Rico thought when they looked at it and said New Jersey, and then they sent it to New Jersey finally, and that took a long time because they had to fly it to Puerto Rico.
Right.
So that was the other weirdest thing, but they did eventually deliver it, but I don't understand how that got missorted that way, but yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I think, like you said, the big thing, when you're dealing with all this stuff, we can't control anything once it leaves us.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if it's the post office, if it's UPS, if it's FedEx. Things happen with all of these carriers, partially due to the volume that's going on. Sometimes they get bad employees. We've all heard of the mail carriers that have dumped packages or whatever. We've heard of people stealing things. These things happen. So we're talking, thousands, if not millions of employees for these companies. So the best thing to do is just keep that line of communication open with the customer. I tend to keep an eye on my tracking, so I'll check to make sure things are, like, if I look at my shipping labels and I'm like, this has been in transit for a while, I'll look at the tracking and see.
Yeah.
And
I generally will do the same for things that have been in shipping for more than a week. Yeah. I don't worry, like, if I just send something out, I don't look at it.
No, but if a few days or like, it's been a few days and it feels like it's taking too long, because sometimes you'll mail something and it'll be lightning fast, boom, boom, it's there.
Just the other day, I shipped an item and it got there in 2 days, like, to the customer, done, and I was like, I don't know how.
You're like, how can it be so efficient sometimes and it's so like a disaster the other day?
And that was to Texas too, and we're in Michigan, fast. And I'm like, I don't know how, because it's a completely different region, postal region.
Yeah.
He's just like, all right, cool, I guess. The customer was happy. So.
Yeah, I bet they were. 2-day shipping.
Yeah.
You're beating Amazon these days.
Apparently.
Yeah, so I just open up that line of communication. I like the Puerto Rico situation. I was like, I don't know what's going on here, but I am watching the tracking, and I'll keep in contact with the post office, or because I have done on several packages, I have done inquiries, because you can, if you didn't already know this, you can go on the USPS website and you can make inquiries about a tracking number if you feel like it's gotten lost or it's not moving like it should. And then they'll look at the last scan location and try to find it, depending on who you get. So, and sometimes all that you do is do the inquiry, and then magically it starts moving. So that is a good tool if you're worried about your package, especially if you're just starting out and you've never had to do a claim or whatever. But I just tell the customer usually that I've noticed that it's delayed or it doesn't seem to be moving, and I'll tell them, put in an inquiry or whatever.
Yeah. So I will say, in addition, while we're talking about packaging and shipping, one thing I learned about recently, so most of the time I buy my labels in the mobile app because I use my phone for almost everything. I had a customer reach out to me. They made their purchase and they realized they didn't update their address on eBay. They just moved.
Oh, dang it.
You can actually adjust that on the desktop site.
Okay. Under edit.
Like in eBay, edit their address, and that saved me like $2 in comparison to what it was going to be using Pirate Ship. So
I've never
keep that in mind.
Pirate Ship.
Oh, really?
No.
It's very nice.
Is it?
For your larger items, or if you're already planning on using UPS as opposed to USPS, Pirate Ship can be a little cheaper than eBay's shipping.
Interesting.
It's not the case with everything. And I was just shipping a bubble mailer, and it was like almost $6 to do Pirate Ship versus eBay was $4.30.
Huh.
So.
Interesting. Different discussion, but.
Different discussion, but I'm just saying, sometimes if you're mobile only, maybe look at the desktop for some situations.
Yeah, I'm an old person and I like my desktop for printing. I've done it from the app.
It's nice to do the desktop, but I have an actual desktop, and that means I have to work
You have to physically be at
where my
I'm using a
desktop is.
laptop,
So
all right. So, do you have anything else to comment on customer
no.
satisfaction? I think,
Anything
or
else?
customer relations. Really, I think it is the communication piece. That's
Mhm.
the biggest piece. And you have to also understand that not everyone's going to be happy regardless. Like,
Yeah.
but most buyers that I've encountered usually are pretty nice if
Mhm.
you're showing them that you're making an effort to solve this problem. And if you go a little above and beyond, like we talked about, that will really make them happy.
Yeah.
You know, like intercepting the circus
Yeah.
and just sending it a different way. So, thank you so much for joining us again this week. Welcome back, Klayton.
Thank you.
He watched last week. He was on hiatus, so good to have you back.
Yep.
Thanks again to Hannah for stepping in that time. But come back next week. We'll have more topics about thrifting, reselling,
And all things secondhand.
yeah. Have a great day.